How did a single funny selfie turn my whole world upside down? What made my husband respond to a harmless joke with cold, official divorce papers? This is how one photo destroyed everything, and why I still think I did nothing wrong. I'm Eudora Finch, 34 years old, and I used to think I had the perfect life. Marketing manager at a prestigious firm, beautiful 8-year-old daughter Sophie, and a husband who provided everything we needed. But somewhere along the way, Adrian became distant, cold. He'd come home from his software engineering job, barely acknowledge me, and disappear into his computer. That's why when I found myself in Paris for a work conference and ran into Mathieu Lefebvre, my ex from university, I felt alive again for the first time in years. Eudora, mon Dieu, you haven't changed a bit, Mathieu said, his French accent making my name sound exotic and beautiful. We were at a charming cafe near the Eiffel Tower, and his eyes sparkled with the same mischief I remembered from our college days. Flattery will get you everywhere, I laughed, feeling 21 again instead of 34 and trapped in a loveless marriage. We spent 3 magical days together. Nothing inappropriate happened, well, mostly nothing, but Mathieu reminded me what it felt like to be desired, appreciated, seen. He listened when I talked about my dreams, my frustrations with Adrian's emotional unavailability, my loneliness. You deserve to be happy, chérie, he whispered over wine on our last evening together. Life is too short to waste with someone who doesn't appreciate you. That's when I got the brilliant idea for the selfie. Just a harmless little photo to show Adrian what he was missing, to make him realize he needed to fight for me. I positioned myself close to Mathieu at the cafe, his arm casually draped around my shoulders, both of us laughing at something he'd just said. C'est fromage, I giggled, snapping the perfect shot. We looked radiant together, like we belonged. Back in my hotel room, I stared at the photo. Should I really send this to Adrian? My best friend Lily would think it was hilarious. She'd been telling me for months that Adrian took me for granted. I typed a cheeky caption, "Look who I ran into in Paris. Some things never change." Before I could second-guess myself, I hit send. Adrian's response came 3 hours later. Got it. That was it. 2 words. No jealousy, no questions, no emotion whatsoever. Typical Adrian. I tried calling him when I landed at JFK, but it went straight to voicemail. When I finally made it home to our suburban house in Westchester, his car wasn't in the driveway. "Daddy's not here," Sophie said when I walked through the door. She was curled up on the couch watching cartoons, her blonde hair in messy pigtails. He said he had to work late again. I hugged my daughter tight, breathing in her familiar scent of strawberry shampoo and childhood innocence. "Did Daddy seem upset about anything, sweetheart?" Sophie shrugged. He was quiet, but Daddy's always quiet. Adrian finally came home near midnight. I pretended to be asleep, listening as he moved around our bedroom like a ghost. He didn't try to wake me, didn't ask about my trip, didn't even seem curious about the photo I'd sent. The next morning at breakfast, I tried to break the ice. "So, funny story about that picture yesterday," I began, buttering Sophie's toast. "You remember Mathieu from my college stories? We just happened to run into each other at this little cafe and—" "I said I got it," Adrian interrupted, not looking up from his laptop. He was already dressed for work in his usual button-down shirt and khakis, his dark hair perfectly combed. Everything about him was controlled, measured, emotionally distant. "But don't you want to hear about— Sophie, finish your breakfast. You'll be late for school." He closed his laptop with a sharp click and stood up. "I'll drop her off today." That afternoon, I called Lily from my office at the marketing firm. She was the only person who truly understood my situation. "Girl, you should have seen Adrian's face when he saw that selfie," I laughed, spinning in my desk chair. He was so jealous he could barely speak. "Good," Lily exclaimed. "Maybe now he'll realize what he's got before he loses it. You looked absolutely stunning in that photo, by the way. Mathieu is still gorgeous." "Right?" "God, Lily, You should have seen how he looked at me, like I was the most fascinating woman in the world. When's the last time Adrian looked at me like that? Honey, Adrian never looked at you like that. Even when you were dating, he was always so reserved. She was right. Adrian had always been the quiet type, but I'd found it mysterious and attractive back then. Now it just felt like living with a stranger. Maybe I should post the photo on Instagram, I mused. Show everyone I'm still living my best life. Do it. Life's too short to hide your light under a bushel. So I did. I posted the selfie with the caption, "Unexpected reunions in the city of light. Jars, Paris vibes. Har, old friends. Har, living my best life." The likes and comments poured in immediately. Friends from college, co-workers, even some of Adrian's family members. Everyone thought Mathieu and I looked amazing together. Everyone except Adrian's mother, Clara. She called me that evening while I was helping Sophie with her homework. "Eudora, dear, I saw your photograph on the Instagram," she said in her carefully measured tone. Clara was 62, traditional, and had always been polite but distant with me. "I'm not sure it was appropriate to post such an intimate picture while you're married to my son." Intimate? Clara, we're just friends. It was completely innocent. Perhaps, but appearances matter. People are already talking. Let them talk. If Adrian paid half as much attention to me as strangers on the internet do, maybe I wouldn't need validation from old friends. There was a long pause. "Has my son been neglecting you, dear?" Finally, someone was asking the right questions. "He comes home, buries himself in work, barely acknowledges Sophie and me exist. When's the last time he took me on a date? When's the last time he told me I was beautiful? I can't even remember." "Oh, Eudora, I had no idea things were so difficult. Adrian has always been emotionally reserved, even as a child. Well, maybe it's time he learned how to be a husband instead of just a roommate." That night, Adrian didn't come to bed at all. I found him in the morning asleep on the couch, still in yesterday's clothes. He left for work before Sophie and I woke up properly, leaving only a note saying he'd be working late again. This was exactly the kind of emotional abandonment I'd been dealing with for years. Instead of fighting for our marriage, instead of asking what he could do better, he was just retreating further. I texted Lily. "He's giving me the silent treatment now, like a child." Her response was immediate. "His loss, babe. You're a catch and he's too stupid to see it." But as I sat in our empty kitchen, staring at the note Adrian had left, a small voice in the back of my mind wondered if maybe I'd pushed things too far. The selfie had been harmless, hadn't it? Just a moment of joy with an old friend, a reminder that I was still attractive and interesting to someone. So why did I feel like I'd just lit a fuse on a bomb I didn't know how to defuse? The silent treatment continued for 3 days. Adrian left early, came home late, and spoke to me only when absolutely necessary. He was polite to Sophie, helping with her homework and reading bedtime stories. But with me, nothing. I wasn't going to let him make me feel guilty for having a good time in Paris. "You're being ridiculous," I told him on Thursday morning, as he poured his coffee. "It was just a photo with an old friend. You're acting like I committed some terrible crime." Adrian's jaw tightened, but he didn't respond. He just grabbed his travel mug and headed for the garage. "Don't walk away from me," I called after him. "We need to talk about this." The garage door slammed shut. At work that day, I noticed my colleagues whispering more than usual. The marketing department was notorious for gossip, and I had a sinking feeling I knew what they were discussing. My suspicions were confirmed when my assistant, Jennifer, knocked on my office door around noon. "Hey, Eudora, people are talking about your Paris trip," she said quietly, closing the door behind her. "Someone saw your Instagram post and, well, there are rumors." "What kind of rumors?" Jennifer shifted uncomfortably. "That you were having an affair with the guy in the photo." My stomach dropped. "That's ridiculous. Mathieu is just an old friend from college. We happened to run into each other." "I believe you," Jennifer said quickly. But you know how people talk. Maybe you should take the post down. Absolutely not. I'm not going to let office gossips dictate what I can and can't share about my personal life. But the damage was spreading. By the end of the week, I could feel eyes on me everywhere I went. The cafeteria, the elevator, the parking garage. People would stop talking when I approached, then resume their conversations in hushed tones after I passed. I called Lily during my lunch break, desperate for support. They're treating me like I'm some kind of scarlet woman, I complained, pacing around my office. All because I posted an innocent photo with a friend. Screw them, Lily said fiercely. You're allowed to have friends. You're allowed to have fun. Just because you're married doesn't mean you're dead. Exactly. Thank you for being the voice of reason. Adrian's being completely paranoid about this whole thing. How's he handling the gossip? He doesn't know about it yet. He's barely speaking to me. Last night he moved into the guest room. He moved out of your bedroom? Over a photo? Can you believe it? He's being so dramatic. I tried to explain that nothing happened, but he won't even listen. That evening, I attempted damage control with Sophie. She'd been asking why Daddy was sleeping in the guest room, and I needed to manage the narrative before Adrian filled her head with his paranoid theories. Mommy, why is Daddy mad at you? Sophie asked while I was tucking her into bed. Her blue eyes, so much like Adrian's, were wide with worry. Daddy's not mad, sweetheart. He's just confused about something. Sometimes grown-ups have misunderstandings, but it doesn't mean we don't love each other. Is it because of the picture on your phone? The one with the man? My heart skipped. You saw that picture? Daddy showed it to me. He said you looked very happy. What was Adrian doing, involving our 8-year-old daughter in our marital problems? This was exactly the kind of emotionally manipulative behavior I'd been dealing with for years. That man is just an old friend from before you were born, I explained carefully. Daddy's being silly about it. Everything's going to be fine. But everything wasn't fine. The next morning, I caught Adrian in his home office, papers spread across his desk. When he saw me, he quickly closed a folder. What are you working on? I asked, trying to sound casual. Nothing that concerns you. Everything in this house concerns me, Adrian. We're married. He looked up at me then, and I was startled by the coldness in his eyes. Are we? What's that supposed to mean? You tell me, Eudora. You're the one posting romantic photos with other men on social media. Romantic? It was a friendly selfie. You're completely overreacting. Am I? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like my wife spent 3 days in Paris with her ex-boyfriend and thought it would be funny to humiliate me publicly. Humiliate you? How does me having friends humiliate you? Adrian stood up slowly, his hands clenched at his sides. You really don't see it, do you? The way you were looking at him, the way he had his arm around you, the caption about some things never change. What exactly never changes, Eudora? I felt heat rising in my cheeks. You're being paranoid and controlling. This is exactly why I need friends like Mathieu, because my own husband can't stand to see me happy. Happy, Adrian repeated flatly. Is that what you call this? Yes. For the first time in months, I felt appreciated, valued, alive. Maybe if you paid half as much attention to me as Mathieu did in 3 days. Stop. Adrian's voice was quiet but firm. Just stop. He walked past me toward the door, then paused. I'll be staying at my brother Derek's for a few days. I need some space to think. You're leaving. What am I supposed to tell Sophie? Tell her the truth for once. Tell her Daddy needs to figure out if Mommy still wants to be married. After he left, I called my parents. If anyone would understand my side of the story, it would be them. Oh, honey, my mother sighed when I explained the situation. Men can be so insecure. Your father went through a jealous phase early in our marriage, too. It's not just jealousy, Mum. He's being emotionally abusive, giving me the silent treatment, moving out of our bedroom, now abandoning Sophie and me entirely. Adrian's always been a bit cold, my father chimed in from the background. Never understood what you saw in him, No sense of humor, no spontaneity. Maybe this is a blessing in disguise. What do you mean? Maybe it's time to consider whether you're really compatible long term. You're a vibrant social person, Eudora. You need someone who appreciates that. Their validation felt like a warm hug. Finally, people who understood that I wasn't the villain in this story. But later that night, as I lay alone in our king-sized bed, I found myself staring at the selfie on my phone. Mathieu and I did look happy together. Natural. Like we fit. Was that so wrong? I scrolled through the comments on my Instagram post. Dozens of heart emojis, fire symbols, comments about how gorgeous and glowing I looked. Even some of Adrian's co-workers had liked the photo. Then I saw a comment that made my blood run cold. It was from Derek, Adrian's younger brother. Interesting timing for a reunion. Derek had always been suspicious of me, always protective of Adrian. But what did he mean by interesting timing? I was about to call him when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Had such a wonderful time with you in Paris, chérie. When can we meet again? M. My heart pounded. How had Mathieu gotten my number? And why was he texting me now, when everything was already falling apart? I quickly deleted the message, but not before taking a screenshot, just in case I needed proof later that he was the one pursuing me. Outside, I heard Adrian's car pull into the driveway. He was back earlier than expected. I shoved my phone under my pillow and pretended to be asleep, but my mind was racing. How was I going to explain this mess? How was I going to make Adrian understand that I'd done nothing wrong? And why did I feel like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, about to lose everything I'd worked so hard to build? Sunday dinner at my parents' house was supposed to be neutral territory. I'd convinced Adrian to come, hoping that being around family would remind him what we were fighting for. Sophie needed to see her parents getting along, and I needed witnesses to Adrian's unreasonable behavior. "Uncle Derek," Sophie squealed, running into the arms of Adrian's 33-year-old brother as he walked through my parents' front door. I'd forgotten Derek was coming. He gave Sophie a big hug, but his eyes were cold when they met mine over her head. "Hello, Eudora. How was Paris?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. My parents, bustling around their dining room, didn't seem to notice the tension, but Adrian's mother, Clara, certainly did. "Derek, please," Clara murmured, adjusting the silverware with nervous precision. "Let's just have a nice family dinner." "Of course, Mom, I'm just making conversation." We sat down to my mother's famous pot roast, the dining room filled with the usual chatter about Sophie's school, my father's golf game, Clara's book club, but I could feel Derek watching me, could see Adrian's jaw clenched tight as he mechanically cut his meat. "So, Eudora," Derek said casually, reaching for the wine bottle. "That photo you posted got a lot of attention." "Derek," Adrian warned quietly. "What? I'm just saying, it's nice when old friends reconnect. Although I have to admit, I was surprised you didn't mention you'd be seeing Mathieu when you told us about your work trip." All eyes turned to me. This was it, my chance to control the narrative, to show everyone how ridiculous this whole situation had become. "I didn't mention it because I didn't know I'd run into him," I said, keeping my voice level. "It was a complete coincidence. We happened to be at the same cafe, recognized each other, and caught up like any old friends would." Derek nodded, swirling his wine. "And the hotel? What about the hotel? Did you catch up there too?" The room went dead silent. Sophie looked confused, glancing between the adults with wide eyes. Clara's face had gone pale. "Derek," my mother snapped, "that's completely inappropriate." "Is it? Because I'm just trying to understand why my brother has been sleeping in his guest room for a week over what everyone keeps calling an innocent photo." Adrian's hand tightened around his fork. "Derek, stop." "No, I think we should talk about this," I said, standing up abruptly. My chair scraped against the hardwood floor. "Since Derek seems to think I'm some kind of adulteress, let's get it all out in the open." Tears started flowing. Not entirely fake, because I was genuinely hurt by the accusations. I've been married to Adrian for 10 years. 10 years of being taken for granted, of being treated like a roommate instead of a wife. I go on one business trip, have one moment of joy with an old friend, and suddenly I'm the villain. Eudora, Clara said softly, please sit down. No, I'm tired of being attacked for having friends. I'm tired of walking on eggshells around Adrian's moods. I'm tired of being emotionally abandoned and then blamed when I find happiness elsewhere. Sophie started crying. Mommy, please stop yelling. The sight of my daughter's tears broke something in me. I sank back into my chair, covering my face with my hands. This is exactly what I'm talking about, I whispered. Adrian has created such a hostile environment that even family dinners turn into interrogations. How is that healthy for Sophie? My father cleared his throat. Now, Adrian, I think Eudora has a point. You've always been a bit distant. Maybe instead of accusing her, you should ask yourself why she needed to find friendship elsewhere. With all due respect, sir, Adrian said quietly, this is between my wife and me. Is it? Derek challenged. Because you're the one who called me at midnight last week, asking if you could sleep on my couch. You're the one who's been researching divorce lawyers. The words hit me like a physical blow. Divorce lawyers? Adrian's face flushed red. Derek, that's enough. You've been researching divorce lawyers? I repeated, my voice rising. Over a photo? It's not about the photo, Eudora, Adrian said, his voice deadly calm. It's about everything the photo represents. Which is what exactly? He looked at me for a long moment, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Disappointment, disgust. You really don't know, do you? Before I could respond, Adrian stood up, placed his napkin on the table, and kissed Sophie's forehead. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Daddy has to go. Where are you going? Sophie asked, still sniffling. To Uncle Derek's house. But I'll see you tomorrow, okay? I love you. He left without another word to anyone else. The front door closed with a quiet click that somehow sounded louder than if he'd slammed it. Well, my father said after a moment, he certainly has a flair for the dramatic. But Clara was staring at me with a strange expression. Eudora, dear, what exactly happened in Paris? Nothing happened. That's what I've been trying to tell everyone. Mathieu and I had coffee. We talked about old times. We took a picture. That's it. Then why? Derek asked quietly. Did he text you last night asking when you could meet again? My blood turned to ice. What? Adrian saw the text. On your phone, while you were pretending to be asleep. The room started spinning. How had Adrian seen Mathieu's message? I deleted it immediately. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, but my voice sounded weak even to my own ears. Derek pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot. It was Mathieu's text, clear as day. Had such a wonderful time with you in Paris, chérie. When can we meet again? M. Adrian forwarded this to me before he deleted it from your phone, Derek said. He wanted someone else to see it before he did anything he might regret. I felt like I was drowning. He went through my phone. He didn't have to go through it. The message popped up on your lock screen while he was checking the time. Clara stood up slowly, her face white with shock. Eudora, please tell me this isn't what it looks like. It's not. I never responded to that text. I deleted it immediately. I don't know why Mathieu sent it or how he even got my number. But you didn't tell Adrian about it, Derek observed. Because I knew he'd overreact, just like he's doing now. Overreact? Derek's voice was incredulous. His wife receives romantic texts from the man she was photographed with in Paris, and he's overreacting. Sophie was crying harder now, overwhelmed by the adult emotions swirling around her. My mother picked her up and carried her to the living room, whispering soothing words. I think, Clara said carefully, that perhaps you and Adrian need professional help. Marriage counseling. Adrian won't even talk to me, let alone go to counseling. He's already made up his mind that I'm guilty of something I didn't do. Then prove your innocence, Derek said. Show him your phone records, your emails, your bank statements from the trip. If nothing happened, there should be nothing to hide. The challenge hung in the air. I thought about my phone records, all those calls and texts with Mathieu during the conference, my bank statements, dinner at that romantic restaurant, the bottle of champagne we'd shared, my deleted messages, the flirting, the reminiscing about our college relationship, the moment of weakness when I'd told him how lonely I was in my marriage. I shouldn't have to prove anything, I said finally. A marriage should be built on trust. Derek laughed bitterly. Trust? You posted a romantic photo with your ex-boyfriend, received texts asking to meet again, and you're talking about trust? That photo wasn't romantic. Then why, Clara asked quietly, do you look happier in that picture than you have in any photo with my son in the past 5 years? The question hit me like a slap, because she was right. I did look happy with Mathieu, radiant, alive, but that didn't mean I'd done anything wrong. Did it? As I drove home with Sophie sleeping in the back seat, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. My heart stopped, thinking it might be Mathieu again. But it was worse. It was from Adrian. Family meeting tomorrow, 2 p.m, calendar invite to follow. A calendar invite? Who sends their wife a calendar invite for a family meeting? Unless it wasn't just a family meeting. Unless Derek was right, and Adrian really had been researching divorce lawyers. Unless I was about to lose everything I'd worked so hard to build. The calendar invite arrived at exactly 9 a.m. Monday morning, sent from Adrian's work email like I was a business associate instead of his wife. Family meeting, Monday 2 p.m, location, 425 Main Street, Suite 200, White Plains attendees, Adrian Finch, Eudora Finch, Sophie Finch. I googled the address. It was a law office. Hartwell and Associates, Family Law. My hands shook as I called in sick to work and arranged for Sophie to stay with my mother. Whatever Adrian had planned, our 8-year-old daughter didn't need to witness it. I spent the morning frantically trying to cover my tracks. I deleted more text messages with Mathieu, cleared my browser history, and called my bank to see if I could get itemized statements removed. But everything left digital footprints, and I was beginning to realize how many footprints I'd left. At noon, Lily called. "How are you holding up, babe?" "Adrian's taking me to a lawyer's office this afternoon. I think he's serious about the divorce." "Over a photo? He's lost his mind." "It's not just the photo anymore. Mathieu texted me asking to meet again, and Adrian saw it." There was a pause. "Oh, that's not great." "I didn't respond to it. I deleted it immediately." I know, but you can see how it looks, right?" "Whose side are you on here, Lily?" "Yours, always yours. I'm just saying, maybe you need to prepare for the possibility that Adrian's not bluffing." After we hung up, I sat in my car outside the law office for 20 minutes, trying to gather courage. This was all a misunderstanding that could be cleared up with honest conversation. Adrian was just hurt and confused. Once I explained everything properly, he'd realize he was overreacting. The law office was intimidating. All dark wood and leather chairs, like something from a movie about powerful men making deals that destroyed lives. The receptionist, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, directed me to a conference room where Adrian was already waiting. He looked different, professional, prepared, like he belonged here. "Where's Sophie?" he asked without preamble. "With my mother. I didn't think she should see whatever this is." "Good. That was smart." A moment later, a tall man in an expensive suit entered the room. He was maybe 45, with graying temples and the kind of confident bearing that came from winning difficult cases. "Mrs. Finch, I'm David Hartwell. Please, have a seat." I remained standing. "I'm not sure why I'm here. Adrian called this a family meeting." "Please, sit down," Adrian said quietly. "This will be easier if you just listen." "Easier for who?" Mr. Hartwell opened a thick folder on the conference table. "Mrs. Finch, Your husband has retained my services to explore his legal options regarding your marriage. Legal options? He's considering filing for divorce. The words hit me like a physical blow. Even though I'd suspected, hearing it spoken aloud in this sterile conference room made it real in a way that terrified me. Over a photo and a text message, you can't be serious. It's not about a photo, Adrian said, his voice maddeningly calm. It's about a pattern of behavior that's been building for months. What pattern? What are you talking about? Mr. Hartwell slid a document across the table. We've compiled a timeline of concerning incidents. Would you like to review it? I looked down at the papers. It was like seeing my life through a funhouse mirror, everything distorted and twisted into something ugly. March 15th. Subject begins frequent texting with unknown French number. March 22nd. Subject books Paris hotel reservation for single occupancy but upgrades to suite. April 3rd. Subject posts Instagram photo with male companion. Caption suggests romantic history. April 4th. Subject receives romantic text from same male companion. How did you get this information? I demanded. Phone records are easily obtained, Mr. Hartwell said matter-of-factly, as are credit card statements, social media posts, and hotel receipts. You've been spying on me. I've been trying to understand why my wife of 10 years suddenly seemed like a stranger, Adrian said. The phone calls to France started weeks before your conference, Eudora. The texts, the secretive behavior. I wasn't being secretive. I was planning a surprise for your birthday. It was a lie, and we all knew it. Adrian's birthday wasn't until December. Mrs. Finch, Mr. Hartwell continued, your husband is prepared to file for divorce on grounds of adultery. However, he's willing to consider alternative arrangements if you're prepared to be completely honest about what happened in Paris. Nothing happened in Paris. Then you won't mind if we subpoena the hotel's security footage or interview the staff who saw you and Mr. Lefebvre together. My mouth went dry. There was security footage? Of what? Mathieu walking me to my room? The kiss goodnight that I'd told myself didn't count because it was just a peck between old friends. This is insane, I said, but my voice sounded weak. You're treating me like a criminal. I'm treating you like someone who's been lying to me for months, Adrian said. The question is, are you going to keep lying now? I looked at my husband, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. Where was the quiet, gentle man I'd married? Where was the father who read bedtime stories to Sophie and made pancakes on Saturday mornings? I want my own lawyer, I said. That's your right, Mr. Hartwell nodded, but I should inform you that New York is a no-fault divorce state. If your husband can prove adultery, it significantly impacts spousal support and asset division. I didn't commit adultery. Then what would you call it? Adrian asked quietly. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw real pain in his eyes. Not anger, not coldness, just deep, devastating hurt. I would call it reconnecting with an old friend during a difficult time in my marriage, I said carefully. A difficult time that you created by emotionally checking out of our relationship months ago, Adrian replied. A difficult time that you made worse by seeking comfort from another man instead of talking to your husband. You wouldn't have listened. You never listen. I'm listening now. The room fell silent except for the ticking of an antique clock on Mr. Hartwell's desk. I felt like I was standing trial, with Adrian as both judge and jury. What do you want from me? I asked finally. Adrian looked at Mr. Hartwell, who nodded. I want the truth, all of it. What happened in Paris, what's been happening with Mathieu, and what you want from this marriage going forward. And if I tell you, then we'll see if there's anything left to save. I thought about Mathieu's laugh, the way he'd made me feel beautiful and interesting and alive. I thought about the kiss that had lasted longer than it should have, the moment in my hotel room when we'd almost crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. I thought about all the text messages I'd deleted, all the lies I'd told, all the ways I'd betrayed my husband's trust while convincing myself I was the victim. And I realized that the truth would destroy everything anyway. I need time to think, I said. You have until Friday, Mr. Hartwell said, closing the folder. After that, we file the papers. As I walked to my car on shaking legs, my phone buzzed with another text from Mathieu. Haven't heard from you, Cherie. Are you okay? I've been thinking about our time together. This time, I didn't delete it. This time, I forwarded it to Adrian with a message. This is what you're destroying our family over. I hope you're happy. But as I hit send, I realized I was the one who had destroyed everything. I just wasn't ready to admit it yet.